My name is Charlotte Jarvis. I'm an artist who collaborates with scientists. I'm interested in how new science and technology have made our bodies into liminal spaces, sites for transformation, for hybridization, and even for magic. I'm interested in how our parts no longer belong to us, how we have become co-created and reimagined. My practice and my research looks at how stem cell technology, personalized medicine, transplantation, and augmentation ask questions like, what is a human body? Can we define it? And should we even try? There is a text called Technologies of Gender by Teresa de Lauretis that I keep coming back to in my work. So de Lauretis describes another perspective existing in what she terms the social spaces carved in the interstices of institutions and in the chinks and cracks of the power-knowledge apparati. Lauretis talks about the need to find a view from elsewhere, a different context for dialogue which exists in between paradigms. So my practice is really based on the belief that this in-between space can be found at the intersection between art, science, and ethics, and critically through collaboration across these disciplines, through finding shared spaces to occupy across different perspectives. So, this is a tour, nominally, about my most recent work in POS. But perhaps more so, this is a tour of my body, inside and out, as it relates to this work. And perhaps even more than that, this is a tour of my thoughts as they relate to my body, as they relate to this specific piece of work. And of course, this is also a tour taking place at a very specific point in time, globally, but also very much personally. So globally, I'm making this video in the month that lies between July the 12th and August the 12th. We are around 6 months into the global pandemic, and I have been isolated for most of that time. Nearly all of the exhibitions I had planned, with the exception of one that was actually in a hospital, have been rescheduled for the future. And of course, this is a future we don't yet really know the shape of. Personally, the footage you can see is myself and my, at this point, unborn baby on the Suffolk mudflats in the south of England. Over the next 15 minutes in this footage, the sun will set. The tour also features the inside of my body, using an ultrasound scanner recorded on the same day. In the footage, I'm right at the end of my pregnancy. During this month, as I process and edit the footage, and as I write this text and record this audio, my body will swell to its very largest, and I will be split in two, giving birth to what we will discover is my daughter, who we will call Lilith, on July the 22nd at 12:35 p.m. As I make this tour, my reality, my personal reality, has shifted utterly and completely. My perspective has changed, not just from lack of sleep, but from this wondrous and terrifying point in time, globally and personally, when it feels like many possibilities are present all at once. And to bring this full circle, the wonder and terror of multiple possibilities emerging from the human form, from our biology, and from where these things intersect with science and technology is exactly what I have pursued in my work for the past decade. Coincidentally, or perhaps not, my most recent work, in POS, is directly concerned with reproductive technologies. Over the past 6 years, I've been working on a series of pieces, collectively titled Corpus, which aim to find alternative spaces of discourse for the human body. The first two parts, Ergo Sum and Et in Arcadia Ego, used stem cell research, genetic engineering, and oncological technologies to place the body in between states, disrupting the site, mutating the contents, and confronting mortality and immortality. These pieces used my own cells to decontextualize existing scientific processes in order to reveal their meaning, both social and emotional meaning. In the third, final part of Corpus, I've been collaborating with Professor Susana Chuva de Souza Lopez in Leiden, and with Kapelitzia Gallery, the Kursnikova Institute in Ljubljana, to try and place my body at the intersection of gender. The piece is called In POS, and we are attempting to make semen from my female cells. And from this point on, when I use the word female, I'd like you to imagine the word always comes in inverted commas. So throughout history, semen has been revered as a magical substance, a totem of literal but also symbolic potency. Patriarchal societies have described semen variously as a life force, a substance of the soul, a drop of the brain, as divine, as equal to 10 drops of blood, and, my personal favourite, that which sows the seeds of virtue in the female soul. So InPOS as a project aims to rewrite this cultural narrative, to use art and science together to disrupt the patriarchy and undermine the existing hierarchy. The project is being developed in 3 parts. Firstly, with Susanna in Leiden, we are using human-induced pluripotent stem cells, these are called HIPSCs for short, derived from my blood and skin to attempt to grow spermatozoa. Now these are the kind of tadpole-like cells that you typically associate with semen. The HIPSCs from my body have XX chromosomes, the genetic marker of what we describe as physically female. The first stage is to attempt to erase one of these X's. We are doing this through accelerated mutation, scanning and selection. The second stage will be to use CRISPR to add specific genes found on the Y chromosome, XY being the genetic marker for male, that initiate male gamete, that's sex cell, production. We will then attempt to grow a healthy colony of these gender-mutated HIPSCs. The final stages will involve encouraging this colony to differentiate into the sperm-producing cells that are found in adult testicles. Professor Lopez has received the prestigious €1.5 million Vici grant to make this part of the project with me. And this is something we feel really proud of, that an art-initiated project has received a really prestigious scientific funding. And I think it's a great indicator that collaborative work, collaborative practice like this can have real perceived value to multiple fields of research. The seminal plasma, that is the liquid part of semen, has been developed in Ljubljana at the Bio-Tehena lab, which is part of Kapelitzia Gallery and the Kersnikova Institute. The base of this plasma is extracted from the blood of multiple women, trans and non-binary people, a coven if you like, including myself. The plasma collected is then incorporated with 13 other organic compounds which make up seminal fluid. These include proteins, fructose, lactic acid and cellulose. Making this kind of seminal fluid is conceived as a collective act, a symbolic rejection of patriarchal hierarchy. And what's been interesting recently is that the implications of this part of the project have also changed significantly since the COVID outbreak. The seeking out and then mingling of bodily fluids has become considerably harder, and I suppose more radical in these past 6 months. Collective bodies, if you like, have become a literal biological threat as opposed to just a political one, which we are used to them being. The final part of the project is the Festival of Thesmophoria. This is where myself and participating women call the female semen into existence. Little is known about the original ancient Greek Festival of Thesmophoria because men were forbidden from participating, and thus it was basically completely undocumented. I use my own semen as a starting point for reimagining a contemporary thesmophoria with multiple groups of women, trans and non-binary people at different sites across the world. The festivals build on the scant extant details and rumours about the thesmophoria, a feast, the burial of a pig, ritual obscenity, serpentine and phallic offerings, etc., etc., etc. But we create new collaborative rites and rituals around the donation of blood and associated laboratory protocols involved in making the project. Participants get to decide for themselves how much or little they wish to document and share with the public. This work, and all of my work over the past decade, is about enacting a transformation through collaborative practice. I've been seeking some kind of scientific transubstantiation. It is about trying to shift the context within which we view scientific advancement to reveal broad existential questions, and to use science in the context of art to challenge pre-existing assumptions about human bodies. What has been a great surprise to me over the past 9 months is how effectively pregnancy and birth does these things already. I think it is a dark testament to the distortive lens, the propaganda if you like, of pervasive patriarchal power structures that the pregnant female body is so ubiquitously used as a symbol for dichotomous gender roles, of heteronormativity and traditional stereotypical definitions of sex. I have been shocked by the embodied experience of pregnancy, and specifically by what a queering experience it has been. My experience of pregnancy has been as a palpable demonstration of the body's mutability. It has required me to inhabit the positions of being both binary and singular at the same time. I have possessed new and different body parts, multiple hearts, extra ovaries, a new brain, and it has forced me to accommodate and love a parasite so that the boundary between me and them is completely and utterly opaque. This transformation only continues after birth. My brain has been hijacked by this new being. Some as yet dormant part of my mind took over and usurped my logical brain when we became two, so that at least for a couple of weeks I felt really possessed, a body repurposed to serve another. If we talked about mutating bodies, hybridized beings that are an amalgamation of individuals, of adding extra body parts and organs, and of blurring the physical and genetic boundaries between people in the context of new science and technology or societal changes, it would be seen as truly radical. Equally, if we developed methodologies for one individual to control the mental mechanisms of the mind of another, we would consider it profoundly dystopian. We would want to examine the existential implications of this kind of hypnosis, for want of a better word. The fact that we have, largely throughout history, failed to philosophize, analyze, or learn from pregnancy and birth in this way is just another reason why we really, really need to fuck the patriarchy. Impos is a Latin term which means before we are born. It refers to something possible, but which is yet to be called into existence. So Impos as a project is striving for a form of technological, biological, and creative activism. But what I've realized over the last 9 months is that this is something which pregnancy and birth is already, if only we had the perspective to recognize it.